All right. What's up, guys? This is Anon. None of this is financial advice. It's for entertainment purposes only. What's up, bras? All right. So yeah, I was in the field today, and apparently, people just fell apart. So I felt like I had to come on here and talk to you guys. Hello. What's going on? All right. So let me go ahead and we'll post this inside of the Discord real quick. If anyone wants to hang out on a Friday, drink some libations, they're more than welcome to. What's going on, Just Investor? What's up, Becca? What's up, Mike? BC, Jason, Devin, is it Valagine? Richard, Chris, Devin, Tom, Jay, Drake, Mitch, Keith, Tom, Richard, RT. What's up, guys? Nextic, Nifty. What's up, Goat? All right, so let me just do this. I'm going to throw a couple things. A bedtime story. Is this? Yeah, I mean, after hours is fine. It just... we started here, and we ended here. Yeah, they cost back a little bit. I think sometimes it's stuff I eat also as well. I'm just posting something real quick. So yeah, so I was in the field today, which sucks. I mean, I don't like it when I have to go in the field because I'm really cut off from trading and I can't really do anything, but it is what it is. Let's see. I got to catch up on some of these things. All right, so getting AirPods so I can hear everything. All right, we got some people hanging out at 3 a.m. What's up, Nicholas? What's up, Paul? Did the brokers do the stock yield and enhancement stuff before Jimmy spurred and popped? I'd have to go back and look at when that went into effect. RT cut my balls out, and I don't want to forget that when we take off. Mike saying 2 weeks ago we had incredible momentum with the build up to 7, social media posting, ATER was launching merge. Yeah, I mean, we can regain that momentum. Here's the thing, right? So retail is really fickle. So, for example, when we were down here, right? And then all of a sudden we took off. All of a sudden retail was interested in the stock. Was retail interested in the stock when it was sitting at 2? No. That's when they should have been accumulating the stock. But no. And so when people see their money fluctuating, they get nervous. And, honestly, if you actually look at it, take a look, right here and draw a line across. We're at the exact same spot. But this is what's happened. People went from here to here. They don't remember that we started down here. The stock is still up 30% or something like that from a month ago. People just have really short-term memories. And so, the shorts know that. They're trying to drive people out and they're messing around. And I told people yesterday, I'm if you actually if you watch the price, it will drive you crazy and it will make you want to sell because that's what they do. Honestly, I went it on at one point to my brokerage and I just basically said, okay, well, I saw that the stock was down. I think it was in the, 430s. And I was like, okay, I'll buy. And so I bought some shares and then that was it. I went on with my day and, then I kept getting all these messages and people were like, what's going on? And I'm like, literally said all this stuff on the YouTube yesterday. I said, I think I was on the, let me pull up Webull, because I'm pretty sure that's where I was talking about. And I'm like, I pointed out where the loading zone was, and like, I'm like, yeah, here's the loading zone. I like said, every time we come in here, this is a loading zone. We just hang out here for a little bit, and then we head back up. Like, that's how this, I said, we're going to probably bounce off one of these moving averages or Bollinger, and then we'll move back up. I was like, and that would mean that at one point we could hit the 393 support. I was like, this could be a fight for $4, or it could be a fight for $4.50. And they broke through $4.50, and they were trying to get it down to $4, but they couldn't do it. So, and now we're sitting back at $4.60 after the day was completely done, which is exactly where we started. They do these things, and people need to realize that, like, they're just playing games, and their only goal, they can manipulate the price. So as long as you ignore the price, and just if you want to buy more, that's when you pay attention to the price, because then you can watch it drop and you can buy more. But if you're just long and you're sitting there and you're not planning on selling down in this range, don't pay attention to the stock. Just set an alert and move on with your day. Like, if you watch every tick, it will drive you crazy. I mean, I watch every tick, but I'm also used to this. Like, this is, kind of what I do. Like, this has been a hobby of mine for a long, long time. I've watched every tick of Aterian for the last, 9 months. I'm used to it bleeding. Like, this isn't a big deal to me. Like, just saying. We'll fill, we'll move up again. Like, it is what it is. Too many crayons. Excuse me. Yeah, but we can regain that momentum. And here's the thing, like, as long as they realize that we're not going away, this is a problem for them. And honestly, as long as we're on Reg Show, and as long as FTDs are, there, and there's community support, and Aterian's still growing. Like, we still are getting new members of the sub, and we pick up more members when the stock is running like this. But then once people are in, if they start understanding the DD and they go, oh, there's something here, we're going to head higher. So, what's up, Dan? What's up? All right. Yeah, more and more people are starting to write DD, which I think is great. I shouldn't be the only person writing DD. Like, I understand, but, like, I didn't really have anything new to contribute. Like, I don't have any of the new numbers. We'll get them on Monday. Like, it's just another Opex. Max Pain was at 450. They got it. Shocking. Like, they've gotten pretty much every Max Pain except for the 2 weeks that we were running. Those were the only 2 weeks in recent memory that they finished above Max Pain. But, like, on low volume, which is right here, we have low volume, they control the stock. And so what they can't control is FTDs. So it builds up again. What's up, Anon? Market makers always get what they want for the most part. Like, that's what they do. That's how they make their money. They cheat, and they use short exempts, and they push the price down, and they wanted the stock under 450, and on low volume they'll get it. If we had high volume today, they wouldn't have gotten it. So, but it's fine. Like, there's not as many shares floating around out there, and if there are, they're not legitimate shares. They are most likely not legitimate if they're when we were doing 150 million and 180 million in volume, when we have a 26 million float. Yeah, like, there are shares out there that are probably not going to be able to be delivered. So, all right, Keith said, I asked the Aterian logistics manager for more shirts when they be available. Should have an answer soon. Oh, good. Yeah. Are the GME elitists on ATER? No, not yet. I was going to say, the couple I showed thought that Aterian is definitely, an interesting thing, and they basically were like, yeah, we don't see you're probably right that the stock they've sold way too many shares, and that there's something going on here. That's what the wrinkles that I was in contact with on Super Stock had said. They obviously are still going to be very much on GME And I'm still in GME, so like but a lot of them couldn't disprove what I was basically showing them. They're like, yeah, that looks like something's going on there. So, all right, do you have any hunch how earnings will go on Monday? No, I mean nobody does. I mean, I can tell you right now that a lot of these, if you look at the past in every earnings, all right, so we just had earnings here, right? We had earnings here. The stock pushed up. It wasn't that, but we right there, and they just pushed it down right after the earnings. Okay, here's another earnings. We'll go back here. This is the earnings beat right here. Got the earnings on this date. The next day, gapped up, ran up to $8 a share, and they shorted it and pushed it back down, and then got it back down. Like, this is what they do with the stock. So there's been 1, 2, right there. This is earnings. Now, this earnings was actually bad, so they actually pushed it down, and they got down here into this, really low, like 304, I think was the low there. And then retail noticed how short they were and squoze them. Or somebody squoze them. I don't know who squoze them, but they squoze them, and then it ran up on secondary FTDs. Like, we haven't even run up yet, in my opinion. Like, this is just the start of the FTD cycle. So, like, if retail can hold their crap together and not, freak out, then what we'll have is we'll probably have a little bit more bleeding. We'll enter this loading zone. People will load down here, and then it will snap back up, and it'll run higher. But yeah, we don't know what's going to go on for earnings. Like, my guess is the one thing I'm curious is I want to see revenue increasing, which they've been doing pretty solidly. And then the other thing I want to see is I want to see an improvement on earnings per share, hopefully. And I'd like to see kind of what's going on with some of their cash. And I'd like to see, if they've been able to reduce any expenses, or, I kind of want to get into the cost of business, all that kind of stuff. So, just remember, shipping stuff's always a laggard. So if you have for example, if you're shipping stuff from China to the US, those rates and all that stuff are managed months in advance. So if you're talking about you're always looking a couple months back whenever you're looking at one of these financials. So retail's fickle, duh. Buy high, sell low. This is the way. Yeah, I mean that's what retail does. Retail, to them, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. But here's the funny thing. So they sell here, but they were buying here. So yeah, they were buying high, and now they're selling low. And then the smart ones are actually just accumulating down in this loading zone. And, if they push it down, we could bounce off another Bollinger. But, I'm telling you right now, the smart people are going to load, and then the dumb ones are going to sell off. And then when it runs again, they're going to be the ones going, fake play, until it, skyrockets, and then they're going to FOMO back in, and then they'll probably sell when it goes down again. They'll lose money even more, and then they can't win because they don't understand all this stuff. But, yeah, there's plenty of people that trade like that. Yo, what's up, Shameful? Excited to build up my May 20th starts. Yep. May 20th is getting stacked up. I mean, just remember, I've got to take a screenshot of the options. Hold on a second. Let me do that so I can pull it over. Here, let me crack a beer. All right. Today we are drinking a thing called Frost Proof by the Cigar City Brewing Company. Giving them a free plug. All right. Oh, we're already getting porn bots? It's a Friday night. People must be excited. All right, so let's go ahead and take a screenshot, and we'll go over some option stuff from today. We'll get to find out more about what got rolled over as well. All right, so let's take a look. Let me trim this up. My wife is going to sleep. I looked at her, we put the kids down for bed, and she was looking at me, and I'm like, yeah, you want to hang out, watch something? She was like, Yeah, no, I'm going to bed. Our son whacked her in the face with a tambourine. She was like, I'm done for the day. Like, hard. Like, that kid, like, wound up and just, like, wailed on her face with a tambourine. Like, hard enough for, like, she used a curse word and then, like, it was like, I can't be a mom right now. Just get him away from me. Not laughing, but I'm just saying, like, he actually, like, wound up and hit her hard, and I'm like, ooh. So she got a little bruise on her nose right now. She's like, I'm done for the day. Like, I'm gonna go to bed. Like, I'll go stream then. People apparently wanted to know where's Anon. I'm like, I literally just had to go out in the field. Like, sometimes at my work, I have to go out in the field, which sucks. But, like, I'm not a full-time streamer, and, like, no one pays me to, like, represent Aterian. Like, I'm just a retail trader, like, and I usually have some, like, time when I'm at work because, like, my job's, you know, no offense, but not, like, super, super challenging, so I can, like, get some stuff done on the side during the day and still get my job done. But, yeah. All right, so options change from 5, 6, 22. All right, here we go. So we'll bring this over here so we can take a look at it. Go drag it over here. Okay, so this was today, right? May 6th, 0 days to expire. So if you ever see people write 0, this is just for, like, education. If you ever see people talking about, like, 0 TE, or was it TDE? It's 0 days till expiration, or expiry. So if you ever see that term when somebody writes, like, 0, TDE, and you're like, what is that? It just means 0 days till expiry. Things are going to expire that day. There's another name for them. Wall Street Bets used for a long time. I don't know if they still use it, but they're called FDs, and it's basically not a nice term, but they're very risky options, and normally you never want to play them. But those are the kids that YOLO, like, their entire, like, life savings on, like, 0 day, like, Tesla options, and then, like, lose $200,000, and then they never post on Wall Street Bets again. So, or yeah, days till expires. Did I say TD or days till expires? T or DTE, right? Days till expire. Yeah, sorry. All right, so let's go over this real quick. So, I keep talking about this, and I know people go, well, that's a lot of premium to pay. But if you actually look at, like, what they are based off of, like, value, like, these ones up here got placed way higher on, like, the ask side. Like, they were not, like, super well priced. And these $4 and these $3.50s, like, the better pricing actually was, like, these ones for a while, but nobody bought them. So you can see, like, the majority of retail was buying up here because we started the week up here. And so what ended up happening was these market makers, because they didn't actually hedge any of this stuff, they decided we're going to go ahead and start buying these out of the money options. So they started stacking up all these, things that were out of the money at the time. Like, they were stacking up basically the 5s and the 4s and the 450s and the 4s and the 350s out of the money. And what they did was, because they weren't hedging any of this stuff, they started then buying the ones up here at the 550s and starting to push it down, and also selling off shares. So it would start a downward price movement. That means they get to de-hedge anything that was up here and start hedging these larger numbers of puts. And then once we fell under 450, they started just loading them today just to make sure the stock didn't run. But you notice as soon as the day's expiry stuff happened, what happened in after hours? It just ran back up over 450. Like, if you understand how this stuff works, it's not that scary. Like, but people just watch the price, and at one point, your account's down $150,000 or $200,000, and then after hours, all of a sudden it runs up 6%, and I'm only down like 50,000. So like you just have to kind of understand that like the options chains play a huge role in how the market makers and shorts control the price of the stock. And it's not that scary once you understand it, which is why, like, if I'm ever streaming in real life, like, in the future, I don't freak out on anything. It's just, like, it's moving up, it's moving down, like, it just, I think I'm just throwing this out there. I think, like, if I was actually live streaming today, a lot of people would probably have not been freaking out. Because I think, it's just the stock's moving. The entire market was crashing. Like, it was bleeding off, and people tend to just, they freak out. And they're like, oh, I got it out before this thing returns back down. Like, listen, 12% down feels like a lot, but, like, overall, like, we're just in that loading zone. So, but yeah, so if you look right here, like, all this stuff got burned. Oops, sorry. Like, all this stuff got burned. And down here, this was the safer stuff. This is what I bought. My shares will turn into, my in the money, buys that I made will actually turn into shares. All this, that premium's all gone, unless they rolled it into the next week. But, I mean, they're going to be down significantly. I mean, these things were basically worthless by the end of the day. So, like, you start playing out of the money, or, like, if you don't have this base down here, that's an issue. Like, we can look at the 20th. At least the 20th has a decent amount of 250 calls. Like, the 20th has a decent amount of 250 calls and a decent amount of 350 calls. But really, those numbers need to grow down there. Like, if those numbers down there don't grow, yeah, I don't see this. That's what needs to happen as far as, like, I'm not saying financial advice or anything. I'm just saying, like, if you were going to really, like, look at this, you would want to see the 250s and the $3 and the, like, 350s really starting to grow. Like, to me, I don't care that there's 20,000 contracts at $5, because unless there's stuff at the 250, 354, like, that's what matters. So let me go ahead and just show you the 20th. All right. So here's May 20th, and I'll cut it out real quick just so you can see it. All right. I didn't do the color things yet, but here. Let's take a look. So this yellow right here and here, that means it's in the money. Make sure this is... All right. So, if you notice, right here, where's my mouse? Where the hell is my mouse? There it goes. All right. Like, 250s. These are pretty solid. Like, would like to see that number grow. Like, these 350s, solid. Like to see that grow. Like, this whole range in here is way safer to me than anything up here. And that's what everyone's aiming for, is up here and up here. But really what matters is down here, in my opinion. So, or if you're selling puts, which is bullish, you would want to be, like, here-ish. Like, you want to sell these puts. Once again, not financial advice. I'm just saying, like, if you were trying to put pressure on a market maker to actually hedge, you basically draw a line in the sand. If you're selling a put, you're basically saying, if the stock price falls below, 450, then I'm willing to buy it. So that's why it's bullish, is because you're basically making a promise that if the stock price goes below that, you are buying those shares. And they have to decide whether to, if there was, like, for example, a huge, let's say these 450s right here, right? So the way this works is, if you were selling a put, you would hit this button right here. It says buy or sell. You would hit sell right here on the, for this particular option. And then what happens is you are selling for, and this is what you could get it for right now. And then this is, if you could try to get it higher, but like, you're basically saying this is the premium I want to receive for it. So you would sell this particular 450 put, right? And like, this is something I might do next, not next week, but maybe next week. I might look at that, but you would basically draw this line in the sand and say, if anything is below 450, I'm willing to buy it. And, I'm willing to take a $76, dollar premium, because you take this number times 10, or sorry, times 100, and then that's what they'll pay you. So, yeah, like, so I would take the premium at that time. I have to hold my cash to make sure that, these guys are, know that I have, money that's backing this. But if the stock falls below there, then I'm committing to buy it, which means that they have to hedge shares that they give me. That's why this is kind of like an interesting way of trading the stock, because you're basically saying, I'm fine owning the stock long, and I'm drawing this line in the sand saying that if the stock falls below this thing, I think that 450 is a good price to pay for it, or even like $4. I'm willing to buy it for $4 or $3, wherever the stock goes. But you're basically making, if the stock falls below this, then they have to start actually buying shares to give you, because you had the money that you put up already, and you're willing to buy these shares, and that's what the selling a put contract is you've committed to buying that if it falls below there. So if, say, for example, 15,000 people said, I am going to go ahead and buy or sell a put at 450, that would mean that all those people that, there would be 15,000 contracts that said, if the stock falls below 450, then I would be willing to buy those shares. But they would have to have the cash to put up for it. So, once again, this is all hypothetical. I'm just throwing out like how all this stuff kind of works. Like, if you buy a put, right, that is bearish. So that would mean that you would, you're basically betting that the stock will go down, and they will give you the ability to, basically sell those shares onto the market instantly. So that's how a put works. As far as buying a put is bearish, selling a put is bullish. I know that's weird and confusing. Buying a call, bullish. Selling a call, bearish. So just throwing that out there for some market education. But yeah, I mean, the options chains are getting really interesting, and there we go. All right, let's see. I'm getting far behind, aren't I? Okay, but yeah, that was the options. I'm holding 100% calls and chilling. I believe the DD. Yeah, I do too. This is the most fun I've had in a long while. I'm long ATER, and a coworker's deep in Clove, and we've been talking each other into buying more all day. That's fun, Paul. All right, dumb question. If we're at 100% utilization, once again, we've been at 100% utilization since right here, right? Who wants to do the math on that, right? How long has it been? I think it's like 59 or 60 days now. How many days since? $59 days. Okay, I was pretty close. Yeah, so it's been 59 straight days since we hit 100% utilization. So, so he said, dumb question, but if we're at 100% utilization, we need volume to take off, but there's no shares to buy. What are we buying? Synthetics? Well, my lawyers told me that I can't accuse anyone of that. So what I'm going to say is, you guys do the math. We've traded over 1.2 billion shares since this date right here when we hit 100% utilization, right? So right here, we hit 100% utilization. And since this day, and most of the volume came basically from here to here. So we've already traded 1.2 billion shares on a stock that has a 26 million free float that was probably already locked up by retail. So what have we been trading? It's a very good question. And I am not qualified to answer that. So my dumb retail brain tells me that something is off here and that the SEC should probably be looking at this stock very, very closely, considering they're on Reg Show threshold, which is created for basically stocks that have a certain percentage of their shares fail to deliver. These FTDs, when they build up, they end up on this list. And is Aterian still on the list? It is. And then how long has it been there? 2 weeks. So, yeah, they're going to try to shake this tree, and they're going to try to make sure that retail falls out, and that's their goal, because they can't tell you that everything's okay because they sold too many shares, most likely. At least that's what it appears like to the layman. So I don't have an answer how you can maybe 100% utilization and somehow sell, and buy and sell 1.2 billion shares on a stock that has 26.27 million shares, which were already locked up, and somehow retail and all these FTDs that are building up, like somehow we're going to be like, yeah, that it's totally normal. Like, okay. So yeah, when they fail to deliver, and my guess is they were probably eating some FTDs in this range right here to drop the stock. So instead of actually delivering the shares like they probably should have, what they ended up doing was just saying, F it. We know that on this date right here, this is not going to be seen until this date right here. So we're going to eat these FTDs, and we're going to make sure that the stock drops. And that's what they've been doing, I think they ate some FTDs, and they got some people to sell, so that resets some FTDs. And then in this section right here, they're going to get some people to sell, which will reset some more FTDs. But if retail was actually smart and kind of figured out how all this works, they would just hold and buy more. Once again, not financial advice, but that's what I'm looking at is, to me, I'm seeing people freaking out. Because, these aren't normal, like this stock's chopping. And I think the fact that they haven't reset the FTDs completely shows you that they're still having trouble with liquidity. So just throwing it out. Why is there an after hours push? Why not? I mean, honestly, I think it has to do with those puts that were basically used to push down the stock price today. Once they expired, I don't think they actually wanted to exercise them. I think all they wanted to do was just push down the price. So they probably sold them. And so people afterwards were like, well, we have to hedge some of these. So these $4. So I think they ended up having to push it up in the after hours just slightly, just to cover enough to like hedge for next week. But yeah, I remember those twos were rough, but I accumulated a lot in those. Yep. Just investor, and you averaged down, and you probably did really well with it. What kind of reasonable exit points can we expect? I mean, honestly, it's up to you. This is all, like for some people, they exited here. For other people, they're going to wait till 12, 15, 20, 25. It all depends on what happens with the stock. I mean, so like I can't give you financial advice. I can just tell you that I'm not planning on selling my shares down here. I'm not planning on selling it for what I consider pennies on the dollar. Like I think this stock is way more valuable than what they're showing you. And so I think, I think the stock's going to move. We'll see how high. But, yeah. Bruh. What's up, Left Droid? Getting lots and lots of porn bots. I guess Friday night they figured people were out. Yeah, I mean, if the mods can help there. Yeah, just report them if you can. This is Jimmy said. It's not even a legit event if the porn bots didn't show up. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of missing the the like laser eye bots. That was fun. Those must be from the SEC. They're trying to get us to ignore ATER. Send in the porn bots. Not a financial advisor. That's pretty good. Let me drink some beer. That's actually pretty good. All right. So they will come back. They'll just deal with it in other streams. Yeah, I mean, they're going to do that. I talked to 2 people this week, each throwing 10K. Yeah, I mean, they're probably going to do well. And just let them know that there's a loading zone just slightly below us, and we may go into that. If they want to average down, they are more than welcome to. But, like, I can't wait till this goes at 6 again so I can sell my position rather than buy back with a broker with a lead exchange. Yeah, I mean... They control the stock. Good joke. I mean, they control the price right now, but they can't control the FTDs because that's starting to build up. And, you know, they're going to try to reset them with some of the paper hands that, you know, got out. But it's fine, honestly. This thing isn't going to go away. Like, there were a group of people that held this stock from all the way back here to all the way down here, and they're going to continue to hold, and that's really frustrating for them. And I think I showed you guys before, you know, you can tell, like, retail got in and is staying in. Like, we're not seeing, like, and I think I showed you guys on other tickers, like, let's do another one. Let's do Ford. See how the stock was up here, the money flow, everything was here, and look, when they sell, this thing drops and it goes back down underneath 50%. That's Ford. Let's look at ATER again. Oops, that's ATERX. ATER. Here, look, we go up and we just stay up. We don't go under 50%. We don't dip down in the 20s and 30s. Like, retail's holding this. Like, I don't know what to tell you guys. Like, people want to sit there and be like, oh, yeah, well, you know, retail's really not bailing. Like, yeah, there's some people that are going to bail, but, like, retail's really kind of holding. Like, that's the 1 hour. Let's go to, like, the daily. Like, retail's holding this stock. And they're going to have to, like, deal with that. Like, it is what it is. All right. The ugly ducking turn badass. The truth is I expect this thing to sell off before going into the... Yeah, I mean, it can. I showed you guys the loading zone. This is the loading zone. And they will reload in this area, and then they'll send it on the next wave up. Like... That's how Elliott waves work. That's how, like, all this stuff works. Like, this is all algos and, like, smart money, like, that are trying to figure out how to shake retail at the tree. All right. I exercised 5 $3 calls early today. The orders say filled in a couple of minutes after, but I will check tonight. And it was showing my exercise orders canceled at 8:22 p.m. That's weird. You probably want to talk to your broker about that, Jacob. What do you consider a good loading zone? So last time we drew it out, I think it's like 4. I think it was like 415 down to like 380 something. Was kind of like the loading zone. And once you got in that zone, every time they kind of bounced in it, it would bounce out quickly. So, you know, or you know, you might have like 2-3 days of chop, and then it bounces back up above that. So that's what I expect. Thailand, do you think it could be long hedge funds dropping the price to get more shares? I mean, it could be. There's lots of things that you'll find out that these things will do. How high does Aterian have the potential to go? It can go up significantly higher. I mean, if you kind of look back just at the, you know, we're down here. We're right here. So Aterian's got a chance to move. Now, granted, the float was lower here and the float was lower here. They've had dilution during this time frame right here. However, though, there's more short interest now than there ever was at any point back here. So when this thing can explode, and it can, this thing can be a lot more violent than anyone's realizing because the short interest is super high. And when people see a runner, they FOMO in. And so I'm just throwing it out there. Like, you can see, I mean, just remember, look at that. We're down here, and this is our history. We're down here. So, different runs, but just saying. Let's see. My additional 500 shares are not added to my common share position. They might do it tomorrow, Jacob, but all right. Felix is saying, "Hey, Anon, say not financial advice, etc." Yeah, not financial advice, etc. Anon, do you remember how long the run on GME was for Reg's show before the January sneeze? Now you're making me go back. Like, sort of got my memory's like a goldfish now. Like, I'm just trying to remember. I'd have to go back. I don't think I even took notes back then on like when things entered. If we looked at GameStop, I know that they were, for a long time, they couldn't locate shares, and so that got super like, where are the shares? Like that was like a website. I think it's still a website that's up. And you can see, actually, that's what we should do. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. All right. Let's do. And where are the shares, maybe? Here we go. So you want to see something interesting, guys. So, this essentially was the shares outstanding, was the gray, and these are your FTDs. Now let's look at 2000. So here's what happened, right? So GameStop, right here in these series, GameStop reduced their total shares outstanding and did share buybacks. And when that happened, these FTDs started really spiking, right? Like, really spiking. So, I mean, you're looking at the history here. There were already some FTDs building up. But once you look at this, at one point, 5% of their float, the entire float, failed to deliver. I mean, we just had 1% of our float fail to deliver, and that's significant. Like, this is where we are right now. Like, 1% of our entire float's failing to deliver. At one point, though, they failed to deliver almost 5%. So, I think it was like 4 point something. Like, it was 4.93. And you're going to find out really. So they were on the threshold for 39 consecutive days. So that's how long they were on there. Right now we're on like 20 maybe. So, yeah. I do remember that website, so I'm glad. Hopefully you guys got to see that. And I don't know how far back in the chat I am, but yeah, that just told you. So the GameStop was on for what was it? What was the number? It was 39 consecutive days. So I have a great feeling for next week, Gavin the Fish. All right, Gavin, I'm glad you have a great feeling. I have a good feeling too. I'm not really. I don't have feelings. I just watch the stock and I comment on it. We'll see. But I do think that they're getting into a dangerous part where if there's any sort of good earnings or if there's even like a slight chance that the institutions go, maybe this isn't as bad as we thought, and start entering positions, that's going to send the stock back higher and it will start chopping around. Then it will probably move to the next step. Do you see after hours though? Yeah, it's looking good. I mean, yeah, we finished basically where we started. Yes. This was just a drop down to burn Max Payne. That's all it was. Will you live stream earnings night and break it down for us? I really should work on it first before I break it down, to be honest with you, because like you need to kind of digest some of the information. All right, what I'll do is this. I need to basically ask my wife if I can have some time and maybe right after work, like just really crunch numbers and see by the time I do get on for a stream, I have at least some thoughts of what was going on. Because once I get that, the 10Q, I need to be able to go over it, look at things, kind of objectively, read through it. And that's going to take a couple hours. So I don't know if I'll be fully prepared that night for a stream to break it down, but I will write a DD on it when I can. So, all right. So, is it Shadi? Says, hey, Anon, do you think their goal target price to cover will get in their way? If so, the cover at a lower price than they squeeze will no longer be. Wait, what? Then the squeeze would no longer be right? Do I think that their goal is a price? Their goal is 0. Shorts want this at 0 because then they get to hide all the dirty secrets that they've had with this stock, and they will get tax-free money because you can short a stock down to 0, and then you receive incentive and bonuses basically because if you don't technically ever close your short positions, which means that you don't actually have to pay taxes on it, which is the legal loophole that shorts do. Their goal was to basically put this company in the ground, and then all that stuff gets shipped away to the obligation warehouse, and they'll never, all those secrets will go with it. That's their end goal. That's their price target. Longs think the stock is going to recover. That's who we are. If you're long, I mean, maybe you're short. You're watching this, but I think the stock is fundamentally undervalued, and I'm going to continue buying and selling and writing information about it. And it is what it is. You're wilding. What price targets are you looking at? 40 plus. That's what Devin said. Yeah, I mean, you can do a whole bunch of things if you want, but what it boils down to is, what does retail think this stock is worth? And at some point, if they really have sold more shares than exist in the float, and they start having to buy back, it's where people start exiting their positions. Do they hold it like GameStop? Do they sell out halfway up? That's going to be part of it. But, it's going to chop, and it's going to be a rough ride for most people. This is not the type of stock that, leaves you at the end of the day feeling, warm and fuzzy. Every single day, it's going to make you, unless you're just going up the entire time, which rarely happens, you're going to chop, and those chops are going to be violent, and you're going to see a ton of money swinging around one side to the other. So, cheers. Is anyone drinking with me? Oh, Shameful's having a hard seltzer. Very nice. What else are people drinking in here? All right, let's see. Do you think we could realistically hit $10 by May 20th? Get those 30K somethings extras. I mean, there's going to be a lot of it's all going to depend on how much in the money stuff there is, and that if that's going to push the stock higher. So, salud, having tequila. All right. Is it Yvonne? Is that how you say it? Yvonne? You're having tequila. Good stuff. Who else is that in? Oh, Becca's in. Jason, just keep buying. Okay. He sold his shares at $4.35. Who did? Tom said, who is? I don't know what he's talking about. I think I'm behind, so I'm not sure who Tom was talking about. he sold all his shares at $4.35. I'm not who he's saying that about, but I did not. I got my shares. So I bought shares at $4.35, like that range. All right. I have occasionally have to go in the field too. No service, radio comms only. It sucks. Yeah, I mean, it happens. And so, let's see. Go over to the after-hour runs. Yeah, I mean, we can break it down if you want. Like, let's go to the 1 minute. So, this is today, right? Here's today. So, the stock went up a little bit, right? And then just bled. And then people freaked out. And then, after hours went down a little bit, right? And then, look what's happening. There's some people buying shares. Like, and now we're back out of the loading zone. And we'll see what happens on Monday. But, like, here's loading zone. If you buy in the loading zone, you're going to be happy. At least I'm happy usually when I buy in the loading zone, then the stock moves higher. So, boom. Let's see. I can see YOLOing on shares, but options, burr. Yeah, I was going to say, you should not be YOLOing your life savings unless they're deep in the money. I'm not even saying you should be doing it deep in the money. Sorry, take that back. Not financial advice. I'm telling you that you'd be safer if you were doing them deep in the money. If you were playing $5 and $7.50s and $10, you are taking a risk. Because if you don't have that base of people that are willing to, be given shares at those prices, you're not going to get those prices at 5, 7.50 or 10. Like you have to start with a base. So, just throwing it out there. Yeah, I was going to say those 0 days till expiry like fails are just rough. So, that's how far back I must be. People are still talking about the Wall Street Bets thing. Okay, we bought the dip. That's what we do. Love dips. Yep. You can buy more shares when it's in the 4s than the 5s. Yeah. That's a very good point there, G-Man. Just kept buying and averaging down. Glad they hammered it. Yeah. Like, all of a sudden, these people who had just a couple hundred shares are now having like 1,000 shares, and the people that had 1,000 shares might have like 1,500 or $2,000, like I mean, 2K shares. Like, that's the dangerous part. Is like, fine, like I can be long and it costs me no money. Like they're the ones paying, cost to borrow fees. I'm not. Nothing's changed. Value, not price. Exactly. So, all right. So. There's going to be clowns on every chat saying it's going to go down. Yeah. People can have their own opinions, but, I don't agree. I don't think this is going back down into the 2s. So did we die today? No. But did you die? When Anon's talking, I feared nothing. When I'm alone, the stock's dipping. I mean, I'd love to stream for you guys, but I just told you, like, I don't make enough money on the Patreon yet or on YouTube where I can just quit my job and say, I can do this full time. Like, I wish I could. I honestly do. I wish I could be here for Aterians and, for people who are watching this stock and kind of calm them down and kind of put perspective on it. But I don't make that kind of money yet on these things. So, I think I checked, and I think if I remember correctly, I had something like 74 Patreons, and I think I lost a couple. So, yeah, I have 74 active Patreons. I had like 80 before. So, at this point right now, I'm not able to, stream live every day. So, sometimes I have to work, and it means I'm not going to write DD, and it means I'm not going to be able to live stream and talk to people and tell them it's okay. DD Do you think the giant call volume on the 20th are institutions? Mark, so what I think is those sometimes will come up because, for example, I'll just show you. So when you start seeing this, right, these could be market makers or hedge funds, or like they're giving themselves basically a backdrop to buy up shares at a certain price, just as a hedge. So they could say, listen, we don't think it's really going to go to 10, but if it does run, at least we can cover at 10 and come up with shares at a locked-in price. So it could be that. Could be shorts doing the same thing, just basically having an active hedge, because they're not super expensive up there, and if it does run, then it gives them the ability to have a set price to cover at. So that's what I think. That's smart money that's doing that, because retail doesn't have that much money to do stuff like that. Have you seen options chain stack like this before, surrounding earnings or otherwise? Yeah, I've seen many times. I mean, honestly, the most beautiful gamma ramp I've ever seen in my entire life was SPRT, right before they did that effing merger. And I won't get into that, but that was honestly the most beautiful setup I'd ever seen, because it literally had a gamma ramp that ran up like $60, and it was just full. And the market maker didn't hedge, and they pushed the stock price down because they were able to bleed off. I won't get into it, but that one was the most beautiful one I'd ever seen. I'd never seen anything like it. I mean, like literally, like the stock went from like $10 all the way up to 60, and it just had full of options. Like the market maker was not hedging those calls, and it just, it's a shame. That's how things went down. But yeah, that one was really nice. I've come here for a porn recommendation. What's a stock? Let's see. Doesn't selling puts allow other people to buy puts, hence driving the price down and bearish? No, selling puts is actually bullish. Buying puts is bearish. So selling puts is basically you promising that you're willing to buy those shares if it falls below a certain price. And if the stock gets close to those, the market maker actually has to buy shares to actually hedge those. So just throwing it out there. Yeah, I think I answered that one about GameStop. It was 39 straight days of reg show before the thing took off. What's the volume since then? Wait, quick. I don't. Was there a first part of your thing? It said something about the volume. I don't know. Stay safe, Alan. No one's trying to get you sued. Yeah, thank you. I don't think I've had this much fun on a stock doing kangaroo runs since AMC went to 70. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm hoping we have the same sort of luck with that. So we'll see. I mean, obviously, this is not as mainstream as, for example, AMC, but neither was Spurt. And Spurt support, which is Spurt, went from like $10 to like 60. So just throwing it out there. Brokers are sending out notices with special interests to loan out your shares. They don't have them. Yeah, I mean, they need to lend out your shares to give these guys ammo to like push the stock down further, because they don't want to buy your shares either. Like, I need retail to understand this. Because of this T plus system, your brokers don't have your shares oftentimes. Like, when you buy them, they don't necessarily go out instantly and go buy those shares on the market. What ends up happening is these guys are sitting there and they're hoping the stock price drops, and they hope you sell. So that way, like, you pay them, for example, let's go over this real quick. I think I covered this the other day, but we're going to do it anyway. We're going to go to the 1 hour. So let's say you came into Aterian at, I don't know, let's say $6 a share, right? And you freaked out during this waterfall, and you sold at the you just said, this can't go any lower, and I got to get out of here. So you sold at 430 or 420, right? So what ends up happening? So you paid them $6 a share, right? Well, this is day one. They have T plus 3. So basically, this day, let's say they decide they were not going to actually buy your shares this day. So they waited till maybe this day to cover your shares, and they bought your shares because they collected your money, but you sold already. So they now still are able to buy these shares because they have to do that to actually fulfill their end of the obligation to close out that trade. So you bought at $6, you sold at $4.20. Let's use decent numbers. Well, who keeps the profit off that? Because if they only paid $4.20 for the stock and then closed out their transaction, but you paid $6, who keeps that money? Oh, wait, that's right, them. So they actually have an incentive for the stock to go down in price to paper hand. So sometimes they won't even buy your shares and they'll just eat a FTD. They said, this is right now the stock, so imagine this. So you bought these shares back here at 360 on another example. So you're like, buy these shares in 360. And the stock runs all the way up to, let's say, I don't know. So here's day 1, day 2, and they're like, man, these shares are way more expensive. Day 2, right? 3, 1, 2, and then 3. They're like, man, we don't want to pay this kind of money. They bought in at 360. I don't want to pay $6 for this stock. So they decide they're just going to fail to deliver. So they'll eat that fee because it's cheaper than buying the shares when it's $3 higher. And so now they're just eating these FTDs, but they're letting the stock price drop because now the brokers have an incentive to make sure that, if all these people are buying these stocks, they want the stock to go down because they need to be able to cover them. So they actually help the market makers and the shorts push the stock down by lending out every share available, even shares that they may not even have. And what ends up happening then is now they can at least cover near where they did it. So they ate the FTDs, but they've got the price to go down enough to where they can actually now buy some of their stuff. So maybe they wait till this day, they bought a couple here, and then now they've reset some of their FTDs. That's how this stuff works. And retail doesn't understand that. They just assume as soon as they buy it, the shares wouldn't hit the lit exchange and now they're on the market. No, that's not how all this works. Because these guys have these T plus settlement systems and it's not instantaneous. They're choosing to eat FTDs just to drop the stock price down. I don't know why people don't understand and know this. That's a big deal. They have an incentive. So, anyway. Let's see. Buying more shares, buying deep in the money calls works too. Yep, deep. Make sure they're deep. If not financial advice, but if you're gonna buy deep in the money, $4 when the stock is $4.50 is not deep in the money. $2.50 when the stock is $4.30, that's deep in the money. All right, I'm pumped up because people can't risk missing a Monday morning pre-pump, which it's done before. Yeah, it could be. Could be up 300% before stock opens. I don't know that high, but yeah, it could be up. Someone posted the executive order DD on Superstock and ATER was on it. Yeah, I was going to say, I think that was ATER. I think that's the guy's name. So, free the bots. I missed them. Yeah, me too. All right, can you explain OBV? It looks like it hasn't moved too much. Yeah, it hasn't. So basically, when you zoom out on the OBV, like on the daily or the hourly, it's just showing you price and volume together. So it's a formula that's calculated, and it's basically, I like to think of them in money flow as kind of like showing what the masses are doing. You should see, in money flowing in, money flowing out. OBV kind of follows very similar to the. So these are two indicators I use to kind of look at what the masses are doing. ADL, on the other hand, ignores the volume and just follows the price. And so when you look at some of these things, when I'm pulling up the, here's Thinkorswim, right? So you notice this is ADL, right? This is OBV in the white, and this is money flow. You'll notice, you zoom out just a little bit. You're seeing a slight dip here, but the money, it's still there. This is on the hourly, Sorry, this is on the daily, and what you're seeing is you're literally seeing this coming through, and this is still very high. Because if you compare it to like a Ford, you can see it go up. This is where we've been hanging out, and then it goes down because you see money flowing in and out. Like that's how this should be working. You should be seeing, when they had this nice run up and this peak, you see the ADL spiking, you see the volume and the money flowing into it, and then when it fell, you see a huge drop. Like this is what we should see when the stock is dropping that heavily and that like. But look, when you go to Aterian and GameStop and some of these other meme stocks, we don't see this huge drop. Why? Like we're supposed to be seeing a huge drop here. We're not. We're not seeing the money flowing out. And we're seeing actually money flowing in more. That's higher than this was down here. So like, I'm just saying, like, it doesn't quite make sense. Just throwing it out there. So yeah. Let's explain that. On a serious note, any signs of money flowing out during yesterday's after our dip? No. Like, honestly, that was just, there was two scenarios that I think that was. That was either short hedge funds or market makers looking for stop losses that had what are called like GTCs, good till closes, which means that if the stock price hits that, it will just bail out. It doesn't matter if it's, during regular market hours or after hours. And perhaps they hit somebody that had a large position that had a stop loss on it, or it could have been a retail investor who just, I think DZ had pointed this out, it could have been like a retail investor that was just like, I need to get into BBIG before this runs, and just sold everything that they had in Aterian. They had a decent sized position. That's possible too, but that's not a smart way of exiting your position. Like just selling off everything as fast as you can, not caring what price you get. Like I find that a little bit hard to understand the logic behind that, because you could have saved yourself a ton of money just selling it off slowly. But like, once again, retail investors are not exactly, they do some stuff that makes you scratch your heads. Like if that was the guy's like theory, like that, okay, BBIG is going to moon. Okay, that's great. You should have sold off your shares slowly and then had more money to bring into BBIG. But like, yeah, it is what it is. I need to do, I know people keep asking me about that, and I'm like, okay, I'll look at that probably tomorrow or the next day on Sunday if I can. Hey, Anon, your guidance has become such a great asset to the community. I feel like this thing's been, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that people learn, that would make me happy. If people actually can learn from some of this stuff and become better traders, that's all that matters. I mean, yeah, and there's our after hours. Yeah. Now that the shipping crisis and over profit margin is raised 46 and the momentum, the collapse, everyone's looking for the next GameStop run. Wait, now that the shipping crisis is over, profit margin is raised to 46 and the momentum, this has the market collapse. Everyone is looking. Yeah, I mean, like, I think at some point there's going to be smart money coming back into this, and it will come in large volumes. The market needs to calm down a little bit, because obviously when you have huge trillion-dollar companies tanking and taking, huge chunks off the S&P, they're going to get more attention than a tiny micro cap like stock like Aterian. Like, so, and earnings will be 86%. I mean, I don't think it's going to be that high. I think it's going to be negative earnings per share, because that's what it's been. I can't see them, getting out of that trend yet. There's nothing that justifies me thinking that 86 per share would be, no. I think we'll still see a negative earnings per share, which is normal. Like, that's where the stock has been. So, is it like a joke that paper hand retail traders are dumping shares and the broker probably doesn't even have? So hedge funds technically can't cover FTDs with the naked shares that were sold. Yeah, they're two separate problems. Like, FTDs are both shorts problems, their brokers problems, and so like that those brokers not having those shares is their own problem. It's not the short hedge fund's problem. The short hedge fund is just, hoping the stock goes down. So, what software platform am I using? I have two. This is Webull, and the other one is Thinkorswim. Sergio, any thoughts on a squeeze or pre-squeeze before the 20th? Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things. So, Howard Green. Yeah, so Devin, there's definitely a possibility that this thing can run any time. So, Howard Green says, "Yo, Anon, F the shorts. I own 1,600 shares, average at 435. Hey, you're profitable. Look, it's 460. You're profitable again. I've been long and will remain. England will fly over and go S&S on a Wall Street. Yep." Rob Jordan, I've held 10K shares, 10K shares since September. I'm not letting them go soon. Yeah. And that cough sounds serious. You need to see a doctor. Yeah, I do. I'm doing better though than I was, but yeah. Hey man, I don't know if this interferes with your RL stuff, but don't do all that number crunching. Let's see. May I ask your idea about May 20th? What will happen? I mean, there's a lot of the more and more deep, like 250s and like 350 calls that start getting stacked. I mean, that's going to be the start of what's going to be what happens on the 20th. So, I mean, like, once again, not financial advice, but like if that starts getting stacked up down on the very bottom, that's how the start of a gamma squeeze works. Like if this stuff down here starts getting very large, that means this stuff actually is probable to actually go. So, but it won't happen unless this stuff down here is starting to get filled up. So that's what's going to be one of the most critical things for May 20th. Is going to be getting those stacked up. Because what will start happening is each week, and the closer these get, like this is 14 days away. When this gets to like 7 days away, if they're not hedging this stuff down here, they're going to start having to hedge these things. So I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, you're going to have strong resistances starting to build up at probably $5 and like $6 and $7.50, and there's going to be, that's what they're going to try to do. But like this is starting to get like full. And you're going to have potential catalysts before then, so we'll see. He's drinking some Manhattans. Good stuff. Yep, I just actually had a really good smoky Manhattan at on the dinner I had on Tuesday with my wife. It was very expensive, but I mean they did a good presentation, and they did like brought the whole block over. And then they set the thing on fire, and then, put the smoke and trapped it in there, and then drank it. But yeah, it was $25 for that Manhattan. I was like, whew. Rand's drinking Bush. Chrissy M86 got fruit punch. No drinks. Driving my forklift. All right. Good stuff. All right. I got left is Crown Black, so sipping on that. Good stuff. Howard Green's drinking beer. That's what I'm drinking. I'm drinking some, it's called Frostproof. It's a Belgian white. It was just what was in my fridge. Drank 2 beers, switched to wine, listening to Anon, watching the Mariners game. There you go. Got some smooth Kentucky bourbon at the moment. We'll crack a beer shortly. Good stuff, Ethan. Crown Apple for Just Investor. Wolf Pup IPA beer. I don't think I've had that one. Getting ready for Sassenach whiskey. Good stuff. Oh, it's a joke that I sold it for. Oh. Where did that even come from? Like, somebody said that it was on the Discord. Was it just like some bot that rolled in and was like, oh yeah, like Anon sold? Like, what made anyone think that I sold? Like, been in the stock for like 9 months. Why would I sell at $4.35? Yeah, doesn't make any sense. I just realized we're up 7% after hours. I started drinking beers. Clearly that helped the cause. Yeah, Nathan, there you go. Yeah. So hypothetically speaking, if somebody loaded up on calls at $5 strikes, would it make sense for that person to think about rolling those $5 out sooner or later? I mean, once again, that's out of the money at this point. So those ones will be more risky than, for example, like a 250 or a 3 or a 350 or 4, whatever. I have some $5 strikes. Now, I bought those a long time ago. I bought those like 7 months ago, and the stock at the time was like $7 or $8 a share. So they were actually pretty deep in the money when I bought them. So I spent, I believe, like $25,000 on those options, and they are not worth $25,000 anymore. But that's fine, and that's one of the things that you risk. When you play options, is now I'm getting eaten by theta, and now if we don't finish over probably like 7 something, my options will probably expire worthless. But I still think there's a lot of catalysts and things, and so I haven't touched them. I haven't sold them. I'm right now like down like, I don't know, like 70-80% on those options, and I'm gonna hold them to the end. So either they're gonna be in the money or they're not. But it is what it is. But yeah, I was going to say, so would it make sense for that person to think about rolling the $5 calls out sooner than later? You want to sell them on IV spikes. So if you roll your options, you want to roll them on IV spikes. So when the stock goes up, hugely, that's when you roll those, because you're getting value out of them. And then you can always buy back in, like when the IV's lower, to get a better price. But yeah, you want to sell those on like a high spike, and then you want to enter on a low spike or like a downward thing when the calls are getting cheaper or whatever options you're playing. But not financial advice, obviously. So honestly, I spend my day giggling about how much I realize this turn of the crown they're digging. Yeah, I mean, like, it all depends, like, on retail. Like, if retail holds their crap together and, they like the stock and they keep buying it, it causes a huge problem for these guys down the line. So it's going to do, let's see, how much cash does ATER have on hand? We don't know yet. So, Randall, we don't know how much cash they have on hand because they haven't released any, like, the last balance sheet I looked at was, they had like 41 million or something like that, I think, roughly. But yeah, we'll find out more on Monday after hours when we get the 10 Qs. So as soon as this moons, I'm a gold member. Good stuff. Quick. Tiny Dancer, you should make a tutorial video on selling cash secured puts and then share on Discord. I mean, it's crazy safe to make money assuming that you want to own the stock and you buy more. I guess I could do that. Yeah. Let's see. Randall, at 30 minutes at the end of 2021, the quick ratio is 7.4. Cash balance should be improved because of the last raise. I expect the quick ratio to be around 9.5. Yeah, like we could see that. Let's see. I've got 2.5 things expiring on the 13th. Should I just wait for expiration and then exercise next Monday? Honestly, like, they have to hedge those. So, I mean, it's up to you what you want to do. Yeah, like if you exercise them right away, then those become T+2. So the broker will have to deliver your shares within 2 days, or they'll have to eat an FTD. So I wasn't asking about your similar gamma ramps. I'm asking if you've ever seen Aterian with this many options on the chains before. Yeah, it was high back in here. When we were rolling up in, I think it was it August of last year? The options chains were on fire here too. And even actually in here and even back in here. So yeah, the Aterians had large option chains before. They added weeklies, though, back around here-ish. I think somewhere like around here. They added weekly option chains, and that's how they were able to bleed down the price. Richard is asking, so the shares we bought today, they're not real? I mean, to you they're real. They're sitting in your account. Your broker just hasn't actually gone out and bought them properly, because that's not how brokers deal with things. They typically want to see if they can get, you to sell lower, and then they could keep the profit if you're long, or if you're short, the opposite. But, they have an incentive to see you fail. It's the truth of it. But yeah, like the way our settlement system works is, if you're a broker and you have a ton of people that are buying, some stock, and it's going to be volatile, you can choose when you actually, buy those shares. And if you choose not to buy them right away, then you become an FTD. So those shares technically aren't in your account, but then again, these shares that they're putting in your account aren't actually yours, because unless you DRS your shares, all these shares are technically the brokers, and you don't have rights to them like you would if you actually owned these shares in your own name. So Beto Hazen and listen to Panic Stream in Wilmington and you. Any thoughts? Oh, sorry. Is there any thoughts on the possibility of an ATM in progress? No, I don't think so. Just because once again, we haven't been able to talk to investor relations, but I did write an email to them and just saying, like, listen, you've got a lot of retail investors who are the majority of your stock, and I don't believe that an ATM. If they didn't do an ATM at $7 a share, I don't think they're doing it at $4. Just throwing it out there. Number one, they have to file an ATM that's ongoing. So, like, we would have seen paperwork for an ATM that's in progress, or we should have at least. So I was going to say, they have a shelf, and we know they have it, but I've not seen any paperwork saying that they're, like, planning on doing some sort of ATM, or, like, it's in the works. I remember when GameStop came out, we knew that they were doing an ATM. They basically announced it through the SEC. So, all right. Do you think this option chain for 20th could be better than Spurt? No, I mean, it's not fully formed yet, so we won't get to see that until later. But it's shaping up to be very nice. I mean, like I said, that was one of the nicest ones I've ever seen, but it didn't happen, so it doesn't matter. All right, now you get the markets are stacked against us. We got to join hands and do what GME did, which is DRS our shares. I mean, once again, if you DRS your shares, then those shares go into your name, and nobody can lend them out, nobody can short them. Those are your shares, and they sit in your name. But because Aterian's a small company and they don't have the ability to sell through the Philadelphia stock transfer, you have to transfer your shares back to a brokerage. So, hi Anna. If I judge a hedge fund short ATER and cost to borrow was at 100% of the time, and now the cost to borrow increases to say 300%, will their cost to borrow increase, or is it still going to be? Are you talking about like prorated, like the shares that they borrowed get locked in, or whatever they chose to borrow them? Future shares would go up to the 300 level. It doesn't change the ones they've already borrowed. It's like a contract. You can't change the numbers later. Like, you don't go, I'm going to borrow these shares for 100% and then the next day the market maker or whoever goes and says, oh, well, we're going to raise these rates now to 300%. So that'll, that's anything new. It's not going to affect the ones you already borrowed, which is why a lot of times shorts will borrow in bulk, and that's why there's shares that are loaned out but they're not yet shorted, because they wanted to borrow them when they knew that they'd be cheaper. So you just explained resetting FTDs very well. Oh, thanks. The technology is there to get the T plus system. We just get an act of Congress. Yeah, I mean, like, you need politicians to not be, receiving huge amounts from Wall Street, and they don't want to change any of these rules. You know why? Because they control the markets with them. Like, that's how this stuff works. Like, they have zero incentive to change how things work, because when they know the system, they know that they can't get squeezed out. They can't, like, these are all things that they think. Now, can they really get squeezed out? Yeah. And it's been proven to happen in the past. And, like, they're afraid of it, and they don't want the system. They want the system like this because this is how they get away with all sorts of stuff. And if they had instantaneous blockchains that, like, settled right away, they wouldn't be able to pull half this crap. So if their operating cost was 40 to 55 million last year, doesn't that mean that they will burn through all the cash and take on more debt to issue more equity in the next 12 months? It all depends, I was going to say. So they've already, I think, number one, we have to see what their cash burn is now, because we saw their cash burn from a year ago when the shipping rates were astronomically high. So what we're going to find out very soon, Randall, is all the numbers. And that's going to be important because, like I've always told people, I will tell people exactly what I think of the balance sheet and what I think of filing and what I think of like a 10Q or a 10K. Like, I don't hold anything back. I'm not going to be like telling you that, things are amazing if they're not. Like, that's not how I roll. Like, I will tell retail exactly what I'm reading and say, okay, this is okay, or hey, this is worrisome, and I'm fine doing that. Like, Aterian's not, like, here's the thing, like, Aterian is a company that is having a ton of issues, mainly because of unexpected shipping costs, and some of their M&A has not gone as well as planned. And so what you have then is they, mostly I think they overpaid on some brands, and they haven't quite worked out the way they thought they would. So they spent a bunch of money that, at the time they had no idea the shipping issues were going to happen. So they bought all these companies before the shipping issues happened. Once the shipping issues happened, it's like, imagine you have a mortgage, and your mortgage goes, and you're paying, like, I don't know, it's like $2,500 a month for your mortgage, right, on your house. And then the next month, all of a sudden, they come to you and say, okay, well, so things kind of got out of hand, and now you're going to have to pay $30,000 each month for your mortgage. And you go, what? Like, no, that can't be right. And you're like, yeah, that's your new rate. That's essentially what happened to them. So, like, these containers went from $3,000 a share to, I think, like $30,000 a container over a course of like a couple months, and that killed their, like, cost of, like, just all sorts of, like, things got completely out of whack. So since then, though, shipping costs have come down, and Amazon partnered with them. Amazon Logistics partnered with them, so some of their shipping stuff got capped. So we need to find out what the new cash burn is, and we're going to need to know kind of what everything's coming out for those filings, Randall. So, yeah, we'll learn a lot more on Monday after hours. So, yeah, and they also have warrants at a higher strike price that would help the price rose. Warrants are in September. Yeah. Negative earnings per share is normal. Revenue is the key. Yeah, I was going to say, for them, they're still very much in growth mode. So, I'm not expecting them to have a positive earnings per share. Like, they haven't had one since I've looked at this company. So, revenue is really what they're focusing on. And I was going to say, we'll see. I mean, I'd like to see a slight improvement. That'd be great. But, it is what it is. Win, lose, or draw. Aterian is done. What are you going to plan on doing to keep this community together for the next move? I mean, so what I'll probably do is, I'll continue to write due diligence, and I'll, if we get to that point where I actually can do this full time, I'll just start researching all day long, and we can start looking at different stocks, and we can start, I'll live stream all this stuff, and we'll kind of look at, stocks together, and dive in, do due diligence, and we'll try to find good opportunities and find undervalued stocks. And I think we've got like 3,000 people in there now. Like, we could probably do a good amount of work if people are willing to. I want to teach people how I do this stuff and teach them. It's kind of like teaching people how to fish. Like, if you teach people how to fish, and you can feed them for the rest of their lives. And so if people in this group want to learn, and I can help teach them what I know, and there's other people in this Discord who are also really, really smart and know more than me in some aspects. I love learning from them. That's what this whole thing was supposed to be about. Like, the name's the Retail Collective because it was just supposed to be a bunch of people getting together talking about stocks, and like, we just like stocks. It doesn't particularly, obviously we focused on one particular one, but like, we have a lot to offer each other, and I think that's the nice thing of where this is going to go eventually. Is we won't all just be hanging out in one Aterian room. It would be we'll hang out in the main chat, in the main trading room, and we'll research things. And the people obviously that have been nice enough to donate to my Patreon, I'm gonna teach them first how to how I do my research, and so they'll have access to how I go about like selecting stocks. And I do a lot of things with CanSlim and different like methods that I try to find some new things here and there. I also scour through like things that look interesting for obviously there's lots of different ways to skin a cat. There's a lot of ways to make money in the market. There's obviously Aterian's one of those that the high short interest is interesting. There's also they're undervalued, and we'll find more things like this, and we'll find other growth stocks. And I like a couple of companies long that I think are still very new, and they'll become much more valuable in the future. And I'll write more about those. So yeah, that's kind of what the plan is for right now, Craig. I will continue this whole thing going. What made them short Aterian to begin with? It was basically the shipping crisis. So what's funny is they actually didn't get shorted that much when they were up here. Like, they ran all the way to basically $49 a share, and they didn't get shorted there. But where they got shorted was over here. They got shorted here, and then continued getting shorted really heavily into this section. And then once they got here, this is when retail came in, and since then they've been hammered. And once retail got into the play, that's when shorts really went ham. So the shorts have been really, really aggressive, basically in like this time frame, like this one right here. Not so much when it was way higher, which is weird. Like, you would think them going, hey, this is an overvalued stock, we need to short it back when it's like in the 40s. No, they didn't really start shorting until it was like in this area. So just weird. But yeah, they started shorting it because of the shipping crisis. They were like, this company's having problems with shipping, containers going like through the roof. And so that's what ended up. And then once they caught wind that when those prices went up, Aterian actually would have been profitable last year if it actually had no problems. If they remained at $3K a container, they would have been profitable last year for the first time. But that's not what happened. So you had the shipping stuff happen out of China, and obviously during COVID, and so there you go. Tell the porn people enough stock talk. Yeah. We do have those bots, right? Binder says he's got 20K shares. Good stuff, Binder. Mike says, look for the last quarter. And here's what I just want to throw out there. I don't know. Obviously, these could just be, strangers on the internet, and they could be making up stories. But I tend to think that a lot of people have, there's guys that have 80K shares. There's guys that have 100K shares. There's guys that have 200K shares. We have a couple guys that have 300K shares. I'm just saying, these things start adding up when you start thinking about, like, how many people on this stream own more than 1,000 shares? I would say probably at least half, if not more. Like, and how much do they own? Like, I think we at one point had a talk that some of these whales that I talked to at one point owned something like 10% of the float, the free float, just between them. Or it was like 8%. It was like 8 to 10% of the entire free float was owned by 3 people. I mean, you guys have to realize, like, that's a lot of shares that retail owns. And so, that's probably why you don't see that huge drop off. And, people are stacking up on this. The smart ones were loading the loading zone. Telling you. Imagine if you knew this was going to be going to, much, much higher, right? Imagine how much more you would have bought now knowing that the stock was down here. But this is where people are the most afraid. 210. Stock was almost going to the $1 range. People were petrified to buy the stock down here. A couple weeks later, boom, sitting there at 7 something. Like, it's crazy how the mentality changes. If you had known that, if you knew that this was going to run to 7, imagine how much people are loaded down here. So what if I told you we'll go to 8 next, and we're sitting down here at, the 4s, the low 4s. Do you think people would load if I told them we were going to 850? Yeah. But this is when people are most scared right now. So I'm just showing you guys the mentality. So I once told my friend, I said, all right, if everything in your body is telling you to sell, this is getting like out of control. I need to like cut my losses and just sell. I said, that's when you should buy. It's like basically do the opposite of what your entire mind is telling you. Like when your mind is saying this is going to keep getting worse. I just need to get out now. That's when you should probably be buying. And when you're so excited that the stock's just running, that's what the things are going. I'm going to be a millionaire, throwing money off of rooftops. Yeah. You should probably look at, where the RSI is and probably take some profit. Like, that's how the big guys make money. Just throwing it out there. Look at last quarter's earnings report. You will see that we had unusual expenses. That has to do with the shipping crisis. Look how low it is now for December compared to the previous earnings. Yeah, I mean, we're going to learn a lot more. It's no use speculating right now. I mean, you guys can talk about it if you want, and you can chat in the Discord about it. But yeah, I'm not going to speculate on anything. I want to see the numbers, and they'll come out very soon. So, let's see. Is anyone expecting anything to change? The price were even to moderately bounce. ATER would not take advantage and issue more shares, eliminate the share shortage that may exist. Yeah, not these levels, to be honest with you, Drew. I don't see that happening. If they weren't going to issue them at 7, they're not going to issue them at 4. Right before earnings. It just doesn't make sense. Like, and these guys don't like these shorts. To be honest with you, I've spoken to investor relations before. These shorts are trying to like kill the company. And so, do you think they're really going to give them the ability to get them off the hook, especially at like $4? Like, they already did the like private placement down here, and that was because the shorts basically made them do it down there because they were running out of cash. So they just need to basically weather the storm. I mean, they're going to need cash at some point, but I think they're going to be able to get it a lot higher than $4. So, yo, what's up, Dustin? If we get an earnings per share of 80.86, I'll tattoo a gator to my... Okay, I can't read that. Trying to keep it cleanish. So, why did you go for options instead of shares? So back when I bought those, I'll just kind of give you my thoughts. So when I bought those ones, we were sitting at, I believe it was, where were we at? I think it might have been around here-ish. I thought we were going to get a nice little bump up. Or maybe, was it here? I can't remember. It was... let me see if I can look up when I bought those options. I know the stock was around like 7 or 8. So I either bought them here-ish in like October, or I bought them around November. But I was like, okay, I thought that we were going to have another nice little spike up. And I was planning on actually rolling those into leaps. And it never came. It just kept bleeding. And, at one point, I think on earnings, I was like, okay. And the stocks, were up pretty good. And the options were up really good. And I didn't sell there because I thought, okay, we did an earnings beat. This thing's not going to run. And instead, it just got nailed down even further. And so that's why I decided I was playing those options on a shorter term thing, and I just wanted to have enough theta. But what ended up happening was I've had to hold on to them because we went and bled all the way down to 210, and then up here they were actually like break even again, or actually they were a little bit profitable back when it was here. But I said, you know what, I'm gonna just hold these, and so I still have them, and But yeah, like obviously I would have rather had the shares now. I mean. But at the time, I was playing them for a shorter term, but I wanted to have enough theta on them just in case something went wrong. Well, something went wrong, and now I'm sitting here with them, and, it was a risk I was willing to take, and I gave myself until the reason I chose May 20th was because I knew there was going to be earnings right before it. So we'll find out if I'm right. But yeah, that's the danger of not, if you buy, instead of, if you go options, even leaps, or even like half leaps like I did, that's the option or the problem you can run into. So Hothead Candles is drinking some Paps. Yeah, Pappy Van Winkle. I do like Pappy Van Winkle. It's funny, I actually was at a restaurant and they had Pappy Van Winkle on the menu, and they had like 10, 12, 15, and 20. I said, can you explain to me how you came up with these prices on there? And they're like, oh, no, those aren't the prices. Those are the years. I said, oh, okay, yeah. I said, what are the prices? And I think their 10 was like, $100 or something like that. I'm like, yeah, that makes more sense. I was like, I don't understand how you guys were serving Pappy Van Winkle for $10, but I was like, maybe you were just giving a thimble out, but... I do think most people neglected fourth quarter earnings and just focused on the yearly. Yeah, I mean, that happens a lot. Yep, Keith's got 80K shares. His roommate has like 100 or something like that too. And yeah, I mean, people have a lot of shares of the stock, so just throwing it out there. On the contrary, if to an ATM, if Yaniv was a real baller and he wanted, yeah, I mean, it would be nice if he did that. I mean, they need the cash too much. They're not going to do a share buyback. If they fell underneath, I told them, I told Aterian, I was like, if you guys fell below basically $2, I would have done a share buyback at that point if I were them. Do you have to transfer shares from DRS to your broker to sell them? Yes, you do. You would have to transfer them out to sell them. But, if you're not interested in selling down here because you think it's going to be up here, then I'm willing to take the chance and, do that. Joke's on them. ATER's now in my savings account. I add to them every week. Yeah, MS, I'm the same way. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but I do have some numbers in mind. When this runs, how high would you let it go before? I just will tell you this. I thought I was going to sell GameStop at, I think I had two designations. I had 50, 60, and 80 in mind. And then the stock ran to like 600. And once it hit like 80, I was like, I'm not selling the stock ever. So, but yeah, it can run really high depending on how much short interest there is, how much like retail FOMO is in. Like there's all sorts of elements. So, looking at the 1 month numbers, all the trend lines are on the rise. If you look at the last 10 days, you will see the price all over the place. Hedge funds messing with the price, FTDs in May 15th. Yeah, and I was going to say, and here's the thing, like we know, like I would be naive to tell you that like retail is holding, but there are some retail that's sold in these areas. And so they're going to reset some of those FTDs, or at least they're not going to reset all of them. But you'll see the numbers fluctuate. Like you'll see one day that you might have a couple million, other day you might have 800,000, another day you might have 400,000. They're going to fluctuate all over the place when they can get shares out of retail. So, but 2.5 million shares didn't deliver around this time frame right here. That's a lot. So very interested that Anon, love your analysis. I've learned more than I ever thought. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. So will the COVID lockdowns in China affect Aterian's earnings? No, actually, so most of the lockdowns are occurring in a different spot. I actually checked with Aterian about like 4 or 5 months ago, and then I found out which shipping they ship out of a different place that's not locked down right now. So it's not going to affect Aterian at all. If you want to know which port it is, let me see if I can find it, because they did let me know which port they shipped out of. All right, let me find this. They ship out of Shenzhen. So yeah, it's I think the Chinese port that's locked down is not that one. So yeah, if you're still watching, if you can like the video, that'd be great. I know we don't have as many people as we normally do, but it's also a Friday night, so figured. Jimenez has got 1,700 shares, still adding. Craig's got 3K shares at this point. Was able to pick up another 1,056 shares at 426. Congrats, that's a good price. 300 there. Hey, you're getting there, Dustin. You're getting there. He's got 20K shares, 100%. Yeah. Picked up a total of 1,200 today, under 450. That's great. The price right now is 460. So I bought 440s, 430s, some at 426. Got an extra 4K shares. Great. Good job. We own double the float. Yeah, it's possible. He owns 140K shares. Acid. Were you on Acid when you bought them? No, but I wish I was. It's funny. What did Aterian say to that man when you said I would have done a buyback under 2? I mean, I once again, this is just something that I wrote them, and I just said, I pointed out that GameStop was a heavily shorted stock, and this is something that I don't, they don't need to listen to, and they probably didn't. But I just said to them that if the stock falls below $2, you guys sold these like private placement warrants at I think it was like $2.90 and then $3 for something for the commons, and I was like, you would actually be making money back on the share price if you were to do a share buyback if the stock fell that low. And they got it down to 210, but they didn't drop below that 2. But I would have been curious to see if they actually did issue it had we fallen below that $2 mark, because that would have been actually a pretty smart play on their part, because it would have reduced the float even further and also would have been taken away ammo. So where does Aterian sell their merchandise? On Amazon or everywhere? Yeah, they sell Amazon's one of their bigger ones. They also sell on Walmart and a couple other places. But all right. You guys still want to talk, or I know the numbers are dwindling. Is everyone still around? The naked people with the porn bots are still around. Do you think they're watching on here? Let me remove these. Let's remove these because I'm actually caught up to the. There we go. Okay, here we go. So, regarding the Pappy, I got a very generous friend who's a wine and spirits distributor. Nice. Norman said, "Who's let my ex in?" I did take care of them. D says he's got 31K shares between 3 accounts. That's awesome. Did Aterian pre-buy inventory 7 million? Yeah, so they had like 70 million in inventory at one point. If you go through the balance sheet. Once again, those numbers are going to be old, so we want to see what the new ones will be on Monday. So I'm still working. Dustin's working here, guys. Don't talk about your drinking. All right, things are getting interesting. Yeah. You skipped my question not long ago. What was your question? Shadi, go ahead and ask your question again. I didn't see it. The more tired I get, the less I'm focused on. At one point I was falling asleep streaming, and I was like, I have to go to bed because I'm not making sense anymore. I'm getting kind of towards that point. Let's see, 250 shares strong. Probably get more soon. Yeah, there you go, Norman. All good, Anon. Dinner time here. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Have a good weekend, man. If the porn bots are still here, then I'm still here. What's up, Green? The goat's in here. I don't own Aterian shares. I just like Anon's points. Is this a better setup than Spurt, in your opinion? So, I mean, support ran from like 10 to like $60 a share. And then it would have ran probably even higher on the second run because that option chain was, I mean, I'm talking about gorgeous. That option chain was like something to drool over. But it didn't happen. So they actually rushed a merger because retail was about to squeeze them for a second time. So, yeah, I mean, this is a good setup. Like, this is very interesting. You know, the cost to borrow is high. The amount of shares out on loan is high. The amount of shorted shares is high. I mean, anything over 15% short interest is high. We're at 40. Like, we have almost 80% of the shares out on loan right now. Like, this is a recipe for disaster for, these guys. So, and it all depends on if they can shake retail. And if they can't shake retail, then retail's going to get paid. And so are all the other, institutions that are kind of playing with the shorts. So thinking I need those to sell puts to keep being walked down on. Yeah, I mean, so I talked about this in another DD, and like, if you want to protect what you have, so say you have a large position, right? And we noticed, for example, that like max pain was at 450. If we were sitting there at 550, or if you had bought just a couple of puts or, enough puts that protect your position, if they do go down, then you can sell those for profit and then turn them into shares long. So, yeah, like, it can protect your position. And I know Trey got murdered for, even mentioning that, but, it's not a bad idea. And I told people, if we get another spike up here, if retail wants to basically do it right, do it like the professionals do it. When you have a nice big spike like this and you're overbought on the RSI, there might be a pullback. You could buy some puts, like if you had bought a 750 put back here, back in this range right here, like in these 2 days, if you had bought a couple of 750 puts to couple with your shares, depending on how many shares you had long, you might have been able to weather this a lot better, this downswing, and not have to be stressed as much. And, if you, for example, waited and just, hedged it and it was fine, you would have been able to make a good chunk of money to buy in, down here in the loading zone, and you'd have even more shares now. And so this is how, like, the smart traders trade. And, you can minimize, yeah, sure, it reduces some of your upside, but at the same time, it protects your money. So I'm not saying people need to do this or like to tell people how to trade. I'm just saying like it's something that's interesting, and I think it's something that retail doesn't do very well. And so, yeah, like if we spike up again, at some point when the RSI is really high on the daily or the hourly, I will probably buy just a handful, of like things just to like make sure I protect that position. And that's how a smart person would trade it. Like if you ever look up the 13Fs, you notice they always have calls, they have puts, and they also have common shares. And it's because they can minimize how much, like, the stock will swing for them. Like, that's how the smart money trades. So, I mean, if retail wants to learn things and become better traders, that's a definite way of doing it. Like, imagine if you're trading the S&P today, right? Like, if you're sitting there trading the S&P today, when it got up here and we were pretty far extended, it would have been smart to buy some puts, just because, like, yeah, sure, the stock could run even higher, but that was your insurance. If you had bought puts at 480, I mean, like, we hit 405. So, just throwing it out there. You can do more to, like, protect your money. I do appreciate your honesty on this. I think their lack of cash is a concern. Yeah, it's always been a concern. I mean, that's one of the things. But I appreciate you've been open about their potential need to raise cash. Yeah, I mean, they have a shelf just like everyone else. Like, they have the ability to do that. But I feel like I know at least a little bit about the company because I've been studying them for a long time. That I don't think they would do a cash offering at 4 when they didn't do it at 7. It just doesn't make sense. The private placement was out of need, and at least it was a private placement and it wasn't an ATM. So, at some point they will need cash, and we will see how much they need. But at the same time, I'm thinking that they would rather do it much higher. I think they know that something's going on with their stock. I don't think they're blind or ignorant. They know that this stock right now is very much in crisis as far as like liquidity, and I think they know that they can raise money much higher than where it is right now. So, but yeah, there you go, Randall. I would like to think these naked, sexy girls hype is about ATER. Yeah, I mean, porn bots, that's what they get paid to do, I guess, is to post these links on YouTubers who are streaming. So we'll just keep removing them and reporting them. I'll ask again. When this went up to $19 in September, October, you were part of this. Was that a squeeze? Yeah, that was a squeeze. It was a short squeeze. And what kept it from going up more? That was dilution. So they had violated a trailing EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation, and I think, what's the last one? Assets or something? I told you I'm tired now. EBITDA is amortization. That's right. That's the one I always forget. So what you see with that is they basically had a promise to their lender that they wouldn't violate this trailing EBITDA, which is basically your earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation. So it's a formula, and what happened was they basically went out of whack because when the shipping costs went extremely up, they were not prepared, and they didn't think they were going to ever come close to those numbers, and they definitely came out and they violated the terms of their contract. And so what ended up happening back here is the shorts knew that they were going to get diluted. Retail did not know that, so retail starts squeezing these guys, and they get in trouble because they have FTDs piling up. All these things are happening. The warrants end up getting pushed out, I think, around here-ish. Maybe it was even back here. The warrants and the shares all hit the market, and they were able to bleed it off. And so all this selling pressure, and it wasn't really that much, to be honest with you. Like, if you look at the volume, there wasn't a huge amount of volume that sent it down. They were just pushing the price of the stock down because they were able to flood it quickly. Not like a lot of volume, but they were just shuffling the price down. They were bid whacking, they were shorting, and retail got freaked out. And then retail started selling, and not a lot, because you can tell. Like, look at the volume. Like, all this money that came in did not flow out all at the same time, and that's the whole thing, right? Like, there's no huge major red candles down here. Like, you had a couple here, but they were not the same size as the green. Look at this. You have this money coming in, and you don't have a ton of red selling. Like, you've got some here, you got a couple bars here, but for the most part, and that's usually institutions that are like those big red bars, you don't have as much money flowing out as what you would think. So, Anon, has anyone told you sound like Bob Belcher from Bob's Burgers? I have heard that from somebody else in here. I don't know if it was you that brought it up, but I was going to say, someone did tell me that. But I do like that actor, or that guy's voice. He does Archer also. Was it H. John Benjamin? That's the guy, right? Yeah, so he does... H. John Benjamin is the voice of Bob's Burgers. So... I'm still here, half asleep, still listening. It seems like Reddit is full of Kool-Aid drinking believers who have more faith and desire than... Yeah, I mean, like... I'm thinking how to address that. So, like, listen. I've always tried to be straightforward with my, like, presentation. Like, Aterian does have risks, but at the same time, I believe there's more upside than downside. When you're buying the stock down here, and they're still a functioning company, and they still have a ton of room, this is an asymmetrical bet. I think buying the stock in this range right here is pretty safe to then buying the stock at $20 a share or at, $48 a share. Like, to me, your downside is much less. Like, current asset values off of the previous quarters were like 245-ish. And that's basically, if you took out all the fluff, current assets is what's left, and that's what the stock would have been worth, just based off bare minimum fundamentals, and they pushed it below that, and so that's when I was like, these guys are just trying to run this into the ground. So, okay, but I'm going to call it. You have a great weekend. See you on Monday. Yeah, have a great one, Chris. Thanks for coming and hanging out. The last couple of days, we were trading in line with the NASDAQ. Did that surprise me? No. I mean, these algos take over, and they just run, and they just do whatever they do. All right. So, I was in the first run-up, held, didn't know what was going on, got out with a small profit, still amazed. I missed this going to 210, but at least I'm here and at 5 at the same time. Yeah, I mean, it's going to run again, probably, is my guess. Have a great weekend, everyone. Be back on Monday for the battle. Yeah, Randall said amortization. Yeah, so, yeah, I had to wake my brain up for a second. All right, how is Redbox able to take up the recent warrant price without short intervention? So, what you have to realize about some of these small caps, especially ones that have warrants at a higher level, these underwriters that write these warrant contracts actually have a clause in there, if I remember correctly, that allows them to literally pump the stock to those warrant prices no matter what. So they have almost like a free pass to pump something without justification just to get their money out. I have to go back and look. There's some weird rule about small caps and underwriters, and just trying to make sure, because if not, then no underwriter would ever write anything for these companies. And so they made some rule up that basically these guys were allowed to pump up these stocks, especially small cap ones, just to get their money out. So what you'll see sometimes is you'll see a high amount of short interest, and then they'll try to bait in retail to basically dump out on top of them. And they do this all the time. They do it with ATMs especially. Like, for example, Prague. Prague came out of nowhere on short squeeze. And right before they became huge on short squeeze, they issued an ATM. And basically, my guess is, this is just speculation, but like somebody either that was invested in Prague or knew that they need to raise cash. I don't want to accuse anybody or anything. I'm just saying it seemed like somebody knew that that was going to be a thing, and they got retailed to basically FOMO into Prague, and then they basically issued out an ATM on top of them, which means that, because nobody was looking at the warrants, and I'm like, yeah, of course, like they have a ton of dilution. That's why it's not going up. Like, it will go up some, and they'll slap the ass, get retail excited, get retail FOMOing in, and then they'll dump out these warrants. So that's how some of this stuff works. So we've had a tough week. Good night, everyone. Thanks, Anon. Have a great night. Thanks, Jason. Have a great evening. He does sound like Bob Belcher. Aren't we all the crazy high volume from the day traders and buying and selling throughout the day and week? It turns over the float multiple times a session. Wait, aren't all the crazy high volume? No, they'll come back again. Like, there'll be a catalyst, and this stock will run again, and they'll have crazy high volume again, and the shares will be turned over multiple times. And yeah, this isn't over. So, holy shit, that kind of is your voice. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm not really H. John Benjamin, but I have heard that I sound similar to that guy. Tina. I do like Archer, though. The way you explain dilution really opened my eyes. It's good stuff. It's valuable for future trades. Yeah, it's something retail should really be aware of, especially when you're dealing with like small caps. Big caps don't really have that same problem. I mean, you still want to look at where warrants are, but like small caps especially, usually those warrants tend to be, very, very, very significant. So, I'm sorry. Let's see. Lana. Danger zone. Yeah, I kind of talked about it. Like, earnings is going to be, they're going to attack the stock probably anyway, but I mean, it's going to be one of those things. We're going to learn a lot of information about the company, so we'll cover it there. Yeah, and Randall, it sounds like you've been investing for a while. You obviously know how to use your money. Like, you sold $5 calls, and if you bought them for $4 something, that's a good way of doing it. Like, there's lots of different ways you can make money in this, and for some people they day trade it. Some people they're looking at it very realistically. Other people they're looking at the moon. I'm just telling you that the numbers don't quite add up on this stock. And so what I've learned, and I've kind of been, writing about for a while, is that these particular stocks are very interesting because I didn't think GameStop was going to go to 500. I thought GameStop might go to like 60. That was like, it surprised the hell out of me when GameStop ran over 200. I was like, what's going on with this? And then it just didn't seem like it would ever stop. And so Aterian, that's another stock that, like, in the past it's ran, and they got saved by dilution last time because that was why the short interest was high. But the short interest is even higher now. And there is some weird stuff going on. And all I know at this point right now is things don't, like, when things don't look right and they don't smell right, and they don't, something's off with this. And I've looked at the indicators, and things still don't make sense. And I'm going, well, what else didn't make sense was GameStop, and this very much reminds me of that. I mean, they're very different plays, they're very different companies, but at the same time, what I'm seeing is stuff from the market makers, stuff from the shorts that very much reminds me of that time right before GameStop ran. So, we'll see. Have you touched on this? If volume pressure would miraculously stop overnight, Yeah, the volume right now doesn't matter. Like, the entire market's bleeding off. All the people that were playing back in here have bigger fish to fry. Like, when your Amazons and your Apples are tanking, you're not thinking about what Aterian's doing. Like, these guys stopped playing with Aterian once the market started crashing. So I wouldn't really worry about that. Thanks a million, Anon. Appreciate your service to this group. Thanks. Have a great weekend. Thanks to Hothead Candles. All right. Next, at what point will the FTD start making an impact? Are they T plus 35 from the dates of the report? Are there any FTDs left from the 4-1? No, so, I mean, this is all going to be stuff down the line. So, like, all this stuff will hit later on. So, my point on the share turnover is more related to the volume. It was 140 to 160 a day. 60 million shares outstanding. That has to be traders buying and selling throughout the day. Yeah, I mean, there were day traders, there were swing traders, but like, I put out a spreadsheet that I think a lot of people had looked at throughout this time, and so they traded since. So here, this is 100% utilization. 100% utilization typically means that shares are very hard to locate. So the question is, when shares are hard to locate back here on March 8th, and you start trading 160, 180 million shares in a day, where are those shares coming from? I mean, it had been locked up. Like, you had shares hard to borrow then. They were literally coming up with like 3-4 million shares to short a day. So where did that come from? That's what I'm saying. There's stuff on this that doesn't quite match up and make sense. So that's what I'm talking about, Randall. Like, those are the things that I've literally written about, and I've asked people to counter my DD, and nobody's been able to. Because you're right. Like, you shouldn't have a free float. You're saying the shares outstanding is 160 million. I'm talking about the free float, which is the shares that are out there available for trading. And that's 26 million shares. When you're trading all of a sudden 180 million in a day, that's pretty high when you have a locked up float. So, where are these shares coming from? Trade Titan. Evidence of whales. Oh, sorry, Greg. Did my house sell? No. We actually had an issue. The buyer came through and said that they need to get, I guess their lending company, they switched something around, and they're now asking for 25% because I guess this is not the guy's primary residence. This is I think he's from Brazil or something, and he's moved to the U.S. with his wife, but I don't know if it's permanent or what it is, but they basically wanted 25% down payment, and he didn't have that on him today when we were supposed to settle. So they now are asking to get it pushed back until, I think, the 18th of next month. And so now we're like, do we walk away from this deal? Do we give him, he's offered to pay an extra $5,000 to hold the deal in place as an insurance, like that if the deal doesn't go through on the 18th of next month or whatever it is, that they would actually, I guess they would fork over that, and we would have at least another 2 months of mortgage payments that we can, not have to eat, and then we'd have to resell them, the thing. Yeah, my assumption is there's a lot of day traders going off 1 and 5 minute charts. They swing up and down and then rinse and repeat. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be people that do that. That doesn't really explain 1.2 billion volume. Else the volume would be 3 times the shares outstanding. Yeah, but remember, the free float's only 26 million. And that's assuming that, okay, so let's go back to this thing. So if we're here on the daily, we zoom out a little bit. Right? So you see right here, your money flows in, your money never flows out. Your OBV, same thing. And this is us now in this move. Right? So we've got this stuff where we're still very much still up here. Yeah, so like, sorry, I'm trying to read what you're writing, but yeah, so like, look at this. So you've had this move up here. We're still very much hanging out up here. You're talking about retail flowing in and out multiple times. That's fine. Retail doesn't have that much. Like, what I think is most interesting about this, you're assuming that retail traders are trading literally like 5 times every, like, you know, couple of minutes, and that's not typically how most retail traders are trading this. You can tell because you would see a lot bigger fluctuations within the indicators, and you don't see that. What you're seeing typically on the macro is you're actually seeing retail buying in and holding. And so what you're not seeing is these huge swings that you're indicating, Randall. So I don't see where you're coming up with that. Yeah, there are retail traders who are swinging this, and there are retail traders that are day trading this, but at the same time, that's a lot of volume. Like, that is a lot of volume for a stock that doesn't have a available float. So you were going to answer your own question, is how else can they do that? Well, how else can they do that, Randall, if, you know, I'm not allowed to accuse anybody of anything wrong, but how else can a stock trade that much volume if the shares are already locked up? And I think anyone in here that's read my DD knows how that goes. So the T plus system is meant to be able to wiggle and shake things. That's how the system's set up. And anyone that's smart enough to understand how the T plus system works means that you can sell more shares available during a certain time frame and kick the can down the road. And that's most likely what they did. And that's why the stock has had these violent moves upwards and downwards. It's because this thing's kicking around, and retail was supposed to sell. Retail was supposed to get out, and retail was supposed to fold at these levels, and they didn't. Retail held on, and because of that, we're having issues now down the line with FTDs, reg show, all that stuff. If you think that this is all totally normal to trade 1.2 billion on a 26 million float, you probably want to get your head checked, because honestly, you wouldn't be on reg show if this is normal operations. You're on reg show right now. You have FTDs that 1% of the entire float didn't deliver on a day. Like, these are not normal things for a stock. So yeah, I'm going to be heading out too, guys, but I want to wish you all a great night. I do have a Patreon if you guys are interested in, you know, eventually having me stream full time. Let me go ahead and link that. And I also would link the Discord, which I always do, to make sure if you guys are not in the Discord and you want to come in and, you know, talk about stocks and do all that stuff, you're more than welcome to join us. It's free, and here we go. So here it is. Copy. Boom. There's the Discord. It's free. People go in there, check out stocks, talk to people, make friends, do all that stuff. And then we'll go ahead and here we go. There we go. All right, so there's the Patreon. If you guys want to support me, you know, it's got different levels, and it, eventually will hopefully get me to stream full time, and I can just hang out with you guys, talk about stocks, and do some research, and we can talk about plays and go from there. All right. Well, you guys have a wonderful evening. I'm gonna go ahead and go, get some rest, and I'll see you guys later. And I'll probably try to do some research over the weekend, kind of look into where I see things going, and I'll probably do a live stream on Sunday evening. So, all right. See you guys then. Have a great evening.